Thank you.
So we're just gonna wait a few more minutes because a lot of people registered. Oh my gosh, what an honor! Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. This is such an emotional day for me. So Tongo is here, but hermano Carlos Morales from Ecuador, right, is here with us. Such an honor to have such a great poet here with us. And Tongo, you look amazing. What's up with that cool background, brother? And I don't mean that in the racist way. Like Tongo is my other brother from another mother. How are
This,
you?
I'm all right. I'm okay. This from the Attica Rebellion right here.
It's beautiful. Oh man, I need a dope background. I just got like some anime stuff in the back. I know. So just to let you guys know, welcome to my English 241 class. This is my amazing creative writing class, and people are slowly coming in. Plus, I forgot about Spring Forward, which totally messes everything up. So people are probably thinking it's like not the correct time, but they should be here. We are live streaming. I am recording because I'm giving the students in my other class the option to do extra credit by watching this amazing performance. And Amy Cattrall was supposed to introduce you, Tango, but she didn't register, so I guess I'll introduce you. So we'll see.
All good.
But this is such a huge honor, man. It's so good to see you. You look good. I see your beard's grown out a little more, eh?
Yeah.
It looks amazing. It looks amazing.
I've been moving through the Midwest,
and it's cold.
So I got to keep it. I need all the help I can get.
Well, a few days ago, we had a protest outside of City Hall. It was below freezing. Let me tell you what, I felt my mortality and my life flash before my eyes, and it was like atrocious. But we had to be there because we had an important political point to make, and it was a lot. But this time I was prepared because of the previous week I had gone to another press conference, and I forgot to put my shoes on, and it was cold, right? And so I'm out there in my chanclas like an idiot, you know. But oh my gosh, that's what happens when you're in a rush. Oh, Dr. Lopez! Did my night? Oh, it's not like. Oh, sorry, Trin. It's so good to see you too. I got all excited. Hey, so Amy,
sorry.
No, it's all good. Amy was supposed to introduce, but I think she forgot.
No, it was myself. I responded to your email, so I apologize for my tardiness. I had a meeting. No. Yes, I responded, and good to see you, Tongo.
Okay, so I'm gonna put it on speaker mode, but just so you know, everybody, I am recording and live streaming. I see you, Lita. Oh my gosh, yes, I am taking roll later. Lita's an amazing student. I love my students, as you probably have guessed. There were like 36 people that registered, so I think we're just gonna wait just one more minute because these people don't normally flake out. Okay, there. Now you we see your lovely face. Ooh, look at that cool background. That is not an atrocious orange. So again, this is my English 241 class. It's my creative writing class. We are still working on flash fiction and fiction, and they're about to turn in their first midterm portfolios. So just a little bit of housekeeping, class. Your midterm grades are going to be posted this Friday, but I should give you like a midterm grade update this Wednesday, and then give you another update next week after I grade everything, because that's usually how it works out. But they'll be posted on PeopleSoft, and so that'll be good for all y'all, because you're all doing beautifully and brilliantly in terms of revising your stories. And I'm not just saying that because we have guests. This is an amazing class, and they've done just like a lot of really hard work in terms of workshopping and copy editing their stories. It's been brilliant. It's been such a joy to read such great work. All right, so why don't we get started? And Lynn, do us the honor of introducing our esteemed guest.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I'm Lynn Williams. I am the Director of Special Projects, and I work with the President, and I'm here on behalf of the President. So, Tongo Eisen-Martin was born in San Francisco and earned his MA at Columbia University. He is the author of Someone's Dead Already, nominated for a California Book Award, and Heaven is All Goodbyes, which received a 2018 American Book Award, a 2018 California Book Award, was named a 2018 National California Booksellers Association Poetry of the Year, and was shortlisted for the 2018 Griffin International Poetry Prize. In their citation, the judges for the Griffin Prize wrote that Eisen-Martin's work moves between trenchant political critique and dreamlike association, demonstrating how, in the right hands, one mode might energize the other, keeping alternative orders of meaning alive in face of radical injustice. His poems are places where discourses and vernaculars collide and recombine into new configurations capable of expressing outrage and sorrow and love. Sorry about that. Eisen-Martin is also an educator and organizer whose work centers on issues of mass incarceration, extrajudicial killings of Black people, and human rights. He has taught at detention centers around the country and at the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University. Without further ado, I present to you Tongo Eisen-Martin.
Actually, can I just say a couple of things? I'm sorry, I gotta open my big mouth. And look, it's such an honor to have Tongo here for the second time. And I do mean, like, I don't know. I don't know Tongo personally. I've only met him online and had the privilege and honor of doing the tech work for a conference that he was speaking at. And he moved me in such a profound way. I voraciously read his books, read them over and over again, read his poetry out loud to strangers. It's that good. And you're in for a real treat. So pay attention to how Tongo seamlessly weaves his work together. It's a thing of beauty. And Tongo has a lot of experience in terms of activism. I know a lot of y'all are activists too. So please ask him questions. If you're watching on Radical Books and Activists, which is where I'm streaming to, I'm not paying attention to those comments because I'm teaching right now. Sorry, y'all. But it is a huge honor and a privilege to have Tongo, a comrade, a poet, and just an all-around wonderful human being. Thank you, Tongo.
Thank you very much. First, I must apologize to the souls of the house because I'm wearing the cheekbones of the mask only, like a pill bottle whose name is yours, name tagged on the side of a factory of wrists. I mean, teeth of the mask now, back of the head of the mask now. A new phase of anti-anthropomorphism fending for real faces. Stuck with one of those cultures that believes I chose this family. I'm not creative, just the silliest of the revolutionaries. My blood drying on my only jacket. The police state psychic middleman evangelizing for the creation of an unmasked, an unmedgar. Blood of a lamb less racialized or awesome prison sentence. Good God. Right angle made between a point on a Louisiana plantation and a 5-year-old's rubber ball 3 feet high and falling like a deportee plane to complete my interpretation of garden variety genocide. You know, I'm small talk about loving your enemies a little more realistically. About paper tigers and also gold. I need my left hand back. Broke my neck on the piano key, found paradise in a fist fight. Maybe I should check into the Cuba line. Watching the universe, last metronome, some called Black Jacobins, just wait. These religions will start resigning in a decade or two. Some colorfully, some transactionally in a cotton Gothic society. Class betrayal gone glassless. I mean, ironically, my window started fogging over too, as I was trying to figure out which Haiti would get me through the winter, which poem houses souls, with socialist breakthroughs like taking 10 steps back and finally trying stillness, like introducing Gabriel Prosser to Thelonious Monk. I mean, I remember childhood, remember the word childhood being the beginning, scribbling on an amazing grace. I rented this body from some circumference of slavery. Remember being kicked out the Midwest. Strange fruit theater, lithium and circuses, like-minded stomachs, the ruling class blessing their blank checks with levy phone, with opioid tea. Sentient dollar bills yelling to each other, pocket to pocket. Cello stands in the precinct for accompanying counter-revolutionaries. My mother raised me with a simple pain. A poet loses his mind, like the room has weather, or a first girlfriend gravity. The difference between me and you, the madness wants me forever. A pair of apartments defining both my family and political composure. Books behind my back, bail money paved into the streets playing euphoria cliche. Bracing for the medicine's recoil, sharing a dirty deli sandwich with my friends, Black Jacobins, underground topography of a grandmother's hands, psychology of the mask now. Teeth of the mask again. I go to the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot negative all over the United States. There are toddlers in the rock. Now I see why everyone out here got in the big cosmic basket and why blood agreements mean a lot and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history and take the glass freeway. White skin tattooed on my right forearm, ricochet sewage near where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti in a kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up. A house of God in part. No cops in part. My body brings down the Christmas. The new bullets pray over blankets made from the old bullets. Pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark. I mean, extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration. The waistband before the next protest poster. Hey, by the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your deaths for last. You're witty, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It has only rained one thing. Non-white cops and prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on an oil spill. A neighborhood making a lot of fuss over its demise, a new lake for a Black Panther party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder, the figment of village. A new noose to a new white preacher, all in an abstract painting of a president, bought slavery some time, didn't he? The tangent screeches of military boats and election Tuesday cars, a cold-blooded study in leg irons proof that some white people have actually fondled nooses. That Sunday, couples made their vows of love over opaque peach plastic and bolt-action audiences. The Medgar Evers second is definitely my favorite law of science. Fondled news clippings and primitive Methodists, my arm changes imperialism. Simple policing versus structural frenzies, elementary school script versus even wider white spectrums, artless bleeding, and the challenge of watching civilians think. Man, it's a terrible ritual they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm gonna go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads in the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest. Modern fans of war, with their t-shirt poems and t-shirt guilt and me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus. I have no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life. You know, a lot of God can happen in 3 seconds. Not much heaven though. I mean, like, here's a man before a fight, a leave me alone type character. Emerging from the penniless death of a one-way street fiction. Fancy way of saying I'm gonna make it even if I have to drive backwards. All I have is chord changes and 1,000 backhands. Driving the street like I'm choking it. Car for the nephews. Hasn't been a sun since November and there hasn't been a street I can't choke to death. This city better back down. You see that gun on the table? There's something about staring until it all feels stable. Why wouldn't I protect everyone on my death? Sleep late. My son better be quick. My daughter better shoot first because we fall for no one. You know, we fall for nothing. Okay, the first thing you'll feel is the heat. This lady would tell me, you know, trying to tell me about possession. Drink life need is what I mostly hear, and most of the world leaves me alone. To breathe smog like a giant. To go to jail every once in a while when the genocide kicks up in late May. When politicians have too easy a time, I'm gassing backwards out of one-way street in honor of myself and in honor of you, you know. If you understand the nature of the world, how long I've been just like my father. What hell of a resemblance as the anxiety of the neighborhood. I mean, this is a crossroads, or this is a crossroads narrative, or so much crossroads, people get in the habit of turn back on to find themselves, you know, remembering someone like me. You know, but not my last words. I mean, man, before fights, you feel the heat, but there's nothing to keep in mind. There's nothing to remember. Really, there's nothing to be. There's just this moment, then another, then stare, and it all becomes stable. Then the table legs go fuzzy, and Friday's an unfamiliar face peeking in the window. It's cool to panic for a second. Composure is wasted on your worst enemies. People are marked on that sidewalk. You the only thing life size. Man, everybody knows this in the wire hanger empire. When the blood stops walking, that feeling isn't father enough to be permission to fold. You better swing one more time. Now, that father of yours rose from the grave and said, just give me 5 more minutes. He said, running water is a myth. I mean, it's us who are running up, down, and all alongside this water, and people don't rise from the grave. They're not laid down neither. It's us who flip all around their bodies. So beware when the people around you all look like they about to jump. It might be your time. You'll feel the heat. And when 4 walls demand to be 4 walls and the earth outside mutes, don't panic. Don't try to recreate the earth outside. Don't tell dope to yourself. I mean, don't even talk disrespectfully to the four walls. Instead, unclench your fist and walk away. There might be heaven if you understand the nature of the world. You know, there were hammers in my cradle, which made some people scared to check on me. God would have a devil, and State Street would have a resurrection, and I'd be a menace to veins that the city protects with precinct flesh. I mean, you know, people actually work and marry here. The sun actually comes up. Have you heard the one about ghetto dwellers? Bang, they all duck. Well, look what the heathen jug again, man. What is that, my bullet? Hey, who is that, your son? Have you heard the one about last names? Did you know that late night talk is the car door to the soul? I don't think we've been here before. Some type of criminal heaven controlling every head, life, or mouth. If the journey has pain, it's the way I came. My name is on this sea. Royalty among mimes would be my right hand, or it'd be a brand new hammer or a wolf traveling at the speed cities and interpretations of shot, man. You know, hands are one of the few places that souls are actually found. And Fisk get a road trip too. Maybe you should mind me, or maybe I paid too much attention to this black coat as I was growing up in a wrong lit room. At least the walls was nice, guys. At least I had this sea. At least I got this ocean when her words freeze and Central Time is up. When my family relapses into suicidal neighborhoods and can't depend on me. When black children are sad. When there are guns everywhere. When death is here and I'm a new kind of nearsighted. She's a new kind of lovely, death is. Right in front yard passes, people getting beat up. I say, I'm not paranoid enough. You got a taste for violence. I've winked at 3 funerals. The Lord gave his only begotten temper to me. Death knows me by nickname. I call it nothing cute, Lord. Let me see the enemy in my circle. Let me see that the enemy is my circle. Let my circle kill me. Let me not stay dead. See, I know who I am down to the street sign. Streets pass my life back and forth. Pass me under gambler jokes and cigarettes, and here I am thinking this is what you call driving at night, or this is what you call 35 miles away. Freeway and all smeared all over the city. How do you write letters with a building on top of your head, with a building feasting on you, with 1,000 backs turned to your kids, without her subtle gesture to interpret in the middle of a backfired resurrection with a president who was out to kill you? Only got one gun to speak of, still I sleep good in August and nobody talks back in traffic. An interestingly handsome bastard had to match a violent song. I mean, I'm like a hi-hat on its own. Motherless, though less of a child. Projectiles become tires, choirs suck down liquor. 5 floors become audience for a dancing killer. Hey, you just a dancing killer. Mid-water walk, outline all over the state. I've seen a bullet become a cheapskate, man. Bodies in the bargain, handsome but hardened prison air, Spanish sales, black as well. Run, tell about my level. And what you seen me do to water. What you seen me do to men. Last of a dying group of friends, and another city in. You know, all street life, all street life to a certain extent starts fair, sometimes with a spiritual memory even. Pre-dying soul clap, your father dying even. Maybe I pushed the city too far. My sensitivities to landfill districting and minstrel whistles, white supremacists, graffiti on westbound rail guards all over coming reauthored. Reauthored by revolutionary violence that chose its own protagonist or a muted stage of genius. I mean, the garbage is growing voices, condensed Marxism for warrior depressives, underpasses in their pockets because they just might be deities, a decent bid on the Panther name, a merciful Marxism, disquieted home life, a metaphor for relaxing next to a person who is relaxing next to a gun. When I stared at my father for a few seconds and returned to my upbringing, returned to the souls of Ohio black folk. I mean, revolution down there pegging at this point. You know what the clown wants? He wants the respect of the ant. He wants to interpret pain only, wants to pull a 38 out of a begging bowl, wants me to hurt my hand on this pen. I mean, I'm not tired of these rooms, just tired of the world to get them in relativity. My only change of clothes prosecuted, the government has finally learned how to write poems, like shootouts that briefly align or make up a parable. A parable is like white bodies are paid well. Do white men even have leaders? Are all white people white men? A rat pitches a river, can almost taste the racial divide, can almost roll a family member's head into a city hall legislative chamber, knows who in this good book will fly. I mean, all I do is practice, Lord. Decided not to talk out of anger ever again. Met my wife at the same time I met new audience members for our pain. We passed each other cigarettes and watched cops win. A city gone uniquely linear, Harlem of the West do a true universe. I will always remember you in fancy clothes, my wife said. So here I sit, twisting in silk ideation. Rifle made of postbellum tar, targets made of an honest language. This San Francisco poetry is how God knows it is me whining. Riding among the lesser respected wolves. Lesser observed militarization. I mean, Dixie-less prison bookkeeping, the California gray coats are coming. Lynch mob gossip and bourgeois debt collection is tempting to change professions mid-poem. In the Chicago briefing, the white sergeant saying blank slate for all of us after this black organizer is dead. Standard academics toasting $2 wine at the tank parade. I mean, bay of nothing, Lord, just nuclear cobblestones, gun line athleticism, and the last of the inherited asthma. Children giving white dogs to play with in fear. Facial expressions borrowed from rich people's shoestrings. I mean, I can hear hate and teach hate, and call tools by people names and name people dead to themselves. And no one getting naturalized except fair legend, son. Carving the equator in the throat, son. I mean, I'm sorry to make you relive all this, Lord. All this pre-dime monarchy friends putting up politician posters and then snorting the remainder of the pace. Minstrel scripts shoveling to the walls by their elders. My children sharpening quarters on the city's edge. For these audiences, I project myself into a ghost-like state. For these gangsters, I do the same. And every now and then, take a nervous look east. Sleep becomes Christ. Sleep starts growing to racial identity. Do you ever spiral, Lord? Has the gang age betrayed us? Be patient with my poems, Lord. And there's so much pain, it's a point to crime. I mean, it has to be if race traders come with it. Lord, is that my revolver in your hand? You know, better presidents than these have yawned at cages, have called us holy slaves, filled the school libraries with cop documentaries. Baby, I don't have money for food. Why I have no present moment at all. A tour guide through your robbery, I also am. A cigarette saying, look what I did about your silence. Ransom water and box spring gold. This decade is only for accent grooming, I guess. Ransom water and box spring gold. The corner store must dot war games, I guess. All these tongues rummage junk. Hey, you know, the start of mass destruction begins and ends in restaurant bathrooms that some people use and other people clean. Are you telling me this a rag in the sky? Waiting for you, yeah. We written a scene, we set a stage, we should have fit in. Warehouse jobs are for communists, but now more corridor and hallway have walked into our lives. Now the whistling is less playful and the barbed wire overcrowded too, my dear. If it's not a city, it's a prison. If it has a prison, it is a prison, not a city. When a courtyard talks on behalf of military issue, all walks take place outside of the body. Dear life to your left, a medieval painting to your right. Man, none of this really makes an impression. Crop people living in thin air. You have 5 minutes to learn how to see through this breeze. When a mask goes sideways, barbed wire becomes the floor. Barbed wire becomes the roof. 40 feet into the sky, it becomes out of bounds. When a mask breaks in half, mind which way the eyes go, you know, they killed the world for the sake of giving everyone the same backstory. We watching Gary, Indiana fight itself into the sky. Old pennies for wind, for that wind feeling you get before the hood goes up and over your headache. Pennies that stick together, mocking all aspirations. I mean, Stuck Together Pennies was the first newspaper I ever read, along with the storefront dwelling army that always lets us down, where the Holy Spirit favors the back room. Souls in a situation that offer 100 ways to remain a loser. Souls watching the clock, hoping their eyes on a lot of sad people. What was we talking about again? The narrator asked the graveyard at 10 minutes flat. Said the graveyard, the funeral only took 10 minutes. They never tell that to anyone again. You just gonna pin the 90s on me? All 30 years of them? Then why should I know the difference between sleep and satire? The pyramid of corner stores fell on our heads. We died right away. That building wants to climb up and jump off another building. These are downtown decisions. Somewhere on this planet, it's August 7th that we running down the rust thinking one more needs to come with me. And what evaporated on Earth so that we could be sent back down? A conductor of minds in a citywide symphony. I mean, waving souls to sing. I also am. I'll put another way. you all you all prayed so perfectly just now. In the growing San Francisco language, tomorrow we will start again with the goal. New neighbors in the trance of spiritual infancy, newspaper people describing the way the non-white class body stretches out on benches. How the city will sit you down next to the kindest alcoholism or spare fanaticism, the steel and the shooting gallery that becomes shooting gallery or the next vaudeville Congress. Accordingly, newspaper people won't in on underground gambling shacks, maybe even on sensible proletariat retribution perfectly from your lips to courthouse tiles, the revolution the devils do. Discovered by young artists in the complexity of passing, predictable, anti-elder, easy to kill, illegitimate to Africa, white counterculture like a lighthouse in the middle of a prison. Or Asia's joke about how well religions work where white authors have been. Dreamscape for the petty bourgeoisie who have tempers but not dance for tempers, who have to write fiction to redeem a neighborhood mall and write myths about how the jungle makes its faces, makes its passports to the shelter system. Mauling page after page delivered to powerlessness. Sweet Honey County line terrorism takes your neighbors. Apostle brain matter, what buckets are made for. Pray over these buckets. Comment on slavery. Loosen the white supply of whiskey, supply of white skitty. Why not shower with flight? Really clean the blood off your shoes. And walled off language quotes from the newer undergrounds, the white movie drags on. A ton of lens made into one glass rim into a musics of compassion, a star in the mind of the addicts who really count out here. When they talk about the summer, they make it sound like Birds of Prey were involved. Our next duet back in San Francisco, making money off of drugs again in a symmetry of rage, breaking the news that the city did not have to die young. Field of grass on the radiator when you played. Rhythm and razors, hand pulled into an American institutionalization, dragging a century across a tobacco leaf, making a mountain of painkillers a secondary definition. But money is green. You're laying in a hospital for a week, thinking about the various distances of love, also the various distances of what police are actually doing. Mason-Dixon line standing up straight, brochure of a liquor store on the corner. Identity climate like a karmic stream that goes hexagonal in the sky. 7th Street siren inviting you into a paint can, hip-hop born already 8 years old in a lotus flower. We just want to know who gave the devil a protection spell. White mask, students of the left sipping hibiscus whiskey, European boots masquerading as relationships to trees, or heartfelt education of a modern slave. Kill kings, eat thrones. Consciousness in big Broadway letters closing the street to the New York 21, Atlantic Ocean nearby, looking at South Carolina like art for the shrine, like the streets are irrelevant. Spirit world about black people, by black people on the canvas, and the distance between the hand and the canvas, it's an epoch if the streets say it is. A junkie stands up for God. It's an instinct of talent, a coup on 7th, the true meaning of numbers to organize millions, like the ruling class have a child, a ticket taker to the wealth. The floor mat between coal miner and in crowd, easy to describe. Challenges to take them all and pin stomp them into an apartment staircase, to yearn for cosmic proof, to recruit a soldier every day that you're alive. Now you start sleeping on the floor with your art, with the visual world, with a nonchalant personhood or decent liver for this causality, stuffing pollution into your pockets, balancing jewelry on these poems. Societies wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen testaments bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back like it's a Brinks. I wrinkle the concrete sometimes like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is a dangerous twin. Black August to the mountaintop balcony on my bedroom floor. They steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their foolish euphoria, from the loyalty oath of their gray superstition, loyalty oath of their agrarian reform. I returned to my mother completely disrespected for peeling the heat off of purgatory. They killed poets like me, walked me away from my poems, never to be heard from again in this final industrial complex of bloodlines picked through a sport and spiritual death of your devil at least half made. Police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves, teaching you how to write about cities as a 25th century in the mirror. Tyranny against your chump change. You're a chump to be mocked even with a gun in your car. A cubit of needlework spelled tomb for the proletariat. The relapse ministry. Talented people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond dime. Just another service day in the theatrics of tea house fascism in a bouquet of surveillance cameras in the poverty of God. New blue eyes, corpses of water, newly potted presidency, or one big shiny coin, if you ask, animated capitalism, another non-literal voice, and killing his white freedom. The deification of hyphens, medicine bread and picture shows, great protests in LA, guests of our ink, drop kicking rolls in the graveyard. DC Mink like a stone torn in half, the pen advances, despite CIA guideposts, despite non-African past and futures, a metaphorical but not surreal day, and the horn-ridden life horn player improvising king. Like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand sweeps the land of racism. May I return to the ground? May I make progress with the gun on our mother Emmanuel? They put on music that evening, a swinging type body language for you to drink with fermented $5 bills. For your body language, some applause, my past stomach line, and neither a good thing nor a bad thing like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. It'll sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading you to surrender their souls to Africa too soon. Polythought floating in a cup of water, she saved me. Accessing my stomach, accessing the love of the American lynch, coast leaves wood and avalanche to the wrist, our mother Emmanuel avalanche to the sharp keys, pain, the deal you make with pain. A piano makes sense for them, laying hands on the world gradually, addressing the bend and necks on the streets of the north. Travelers sailing in pain, repeating pain in the north. 10 trigger fingers on that piano, if harmony would have me. Putting 100 fights on every direction offered her. Lady Day, leaning on trees again, recruiting the countryside itself, saying lay your planet on this lightning, make your poems the corner pocket of men. I've greeted the blues itself. America may clean my dead body, but will never include me. There goes the poet, killing without killing. Never mind this painting of your language. May I be a meaningful lynching. A crow's passing. Good and dead by the afternoon. You know, from a 2-floor skyline, an abandoned house once talked to me. It said, young man, you are heroic and 10 years old. Among 20 generations of friends, your friends will free fall away. They'll free fall up. They'll free fall the walls with 5th grade speed to industrial paint behind secondhand fences. Young man, use quick knife tones. Be bone and brass. Be last F music. You are always leaving. Always want to change your clothes from the door. Man, a life and escape. A 2-floor skyline told me, you're the guide that dies in the middle. The friend who is more blues than skin. The face that cheap hotel schizophrenics can place with their 90-mile-per-hour right eyes among dry heat killers, once children 3 feet high and roaming and repeating and aiming at cotton mirrors to hang on breathing walls. You are 10 years old, tagging along, yawning at well-lit violence, whistling tool shop songs. You will be useful. You will be high and alone, flying on a nephew dragon from a $20 family in a sky that calls itself just more soil, around walls that are just walls, except these walls suggest you make wives out of highs and currency. Here the air is polite to sleepy glass and bullying wall. Now, young man, you will come to admit that sometimes suicide is power, because some people live stronger as ghosts. And sometimes the afterlife empties. Billions of souls enter objects like playground bullets and abandoned door frames. Even broken glass will prove it has voice too. There are 24 hours behind your back. Look over your shoulders right now. Can you hear it? The sound of drums punching themselves out. The sound of piano parts learning between assassination attempts. Be bone and brass. Be bone enough for 2 souls. Be invincible again. Suffer red-eyed accents, professional fingertips. Gifted victim, 6 in the morning, be here the first month of probation, and shout at the wall, see these words that shouldn't be on. Look behind you again. Be invincible again. I mean, be Winwood, be a sad machete, be her son, be a thief, steal us back, laugh too long, never look away. The afterlife will empty and walk you home. I mean, I talk facing away from the dead. They replaced me with the change in my pocket, a penny that's yet to be invented. They say you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fries. Playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things. It interrupts me while I'm trying to dream, like your clay correspondence floor. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet, like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I really done it, Lord. I explored the mumbles of my mind, explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions, modern militancy. Windows to the South. I'll walk on a missile for food, I guess. I guess you will not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country I murdered merge with us, Lord? Our old metal versus the new metals. Our old metal versus the pool of meandering imperialist faces. A multiculturalism of sorts. You know, they replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity instead of a chest cavity held tight. It takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories. Like a song about a song, or like a hemisphere about a hemisphere. Stories that travel through a conquered poet. You know, my mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. What I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles. Watch people play for post-working class associative surfaces or recreations of a governor's desk, ruling class art of utility playing fine a sociopathic bureaucrat. A day some white people scare even easier. TV in a basket next to a ceramic baby wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny fantasizing through the art of the poor. Their trendy latches locked before God, black art hunted down like a dog, and hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm gonna die in a war. You know, unelected white people in my small house like a blues song with no spiritual effect, a dollhouse H-bomb, a pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, the chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church, church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river, no autobiography outside of small personal victories of violence and drug use made in the image of God trinkets. What white abolitionists confided in their children about. Chemical assurances that they will switch from black artists to white artists, from black guy to white guy, from black worker to white worker. I think about you cautiously, Lord. You know, in the same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. A comedian points out a planter's field to a priest, king, sugarcane king, cotton king, revolutionary, the ball is central, containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planet class, speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we can figure out our fathers. Later, a priest took my mother lightly, Lord. You know, stood in front of parishioners, re-raveling fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. After the day, I've never been a poet before. Little brother watches his big brother's friends. And when rifles on sheltered walls, they agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one. To keep nothing God-like, to write a poem for God. I'll leave it there.
Oh, Tongo, I love it. Just dig it. Oh my gosh. So students, please don't be shy. Tongo, super amazing teacher. If you don't feel comfortable speaking your question or your comments, I'd be happy to you know, read them out loud. Guests too, feel free to ask questions. So students, what questions do you have for Tongo? You're getting love, a lot of claps. Anybody?
How did you manage to put all that together? I mean, when it comes to writing literally anything, it takes ages to just go through things word by word, but you just managed to put together a whole dreamscape almost. Was that like a process that you had to like dig through, like, you know, like stone, or did you just like manage to just like?
That's a great question, Jacob.
It's you know, and y'all don't have to forgive me. I just came from around the world, and part of that trip included some family tragedies. So I'm stressed in. So I hope I'm just stop me if if what I'm saying ain't helping.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But now, you know, there's this, you know, a kind of a reality of a reality of ideas, in which if you know, when I'm moving along, let's start just with the writing side. All I'm really I don't have I don't keep my mind on a larger sweep or objective. I just kind of take a thought, and try to just try to push it, as much as I can, and just get a little bit more, almost like phenomenal understanding out of it, to see what, just if I can get just a little bit more insight on one of these, just one of these locations of reality on the back end, just from really, again, just tinkering with the idea. An energy kind of comes out, or an energy kind of facilitates itself, um through these, through the idea, so that I don't have to, all that to say, it's not as much heavy lifting as it looks. There's an inherent kind of energy to reality and the investigation of reality. I mean, we definitely know how much energy is facilitating, or is part of the facilitation of history, right? Um, as why it might look a little bit more impressive than what's really happening is, in the moment, as I'm going poem for poem, um, there are other kind of shapes in the conversation. There's the shape of whatever, kind of persona might want to present this stanza. There's the kind of just the realities of myself in a moment, the realities of the poem in the moment, and then the words kind of just really are just decorating these shapes. So it comes off, it comes off like a lot of effort, but or it might look like it takes a lot of effort, but actually I'm just kind of relaxing into what's naturally there, as the train of thought of the poems kind of wander around, and the realities of energy kind of fluctuate. The meditation is always the same. Just, how can I do right by this word? How can I do right by these three words? How can I do right by this stanza? Just in speaking it, similar to how can I do right by the investigation of gentrification? How can I do right by the investigation of late stage imperialism? You see, so that's it. Just trying to keep my mind in a healthy place as I'm moving along. Everything comes, the universe comes out and plays along. Like, everything just comes out and plays along. So it's not as it's not as it's not as I was not a varsity basketball player, man.
You and me both. It sounds very much like free association, almost, the way that you describe it. You come with an idea, and then it's just sort of plucking ideas almost sort of out of the universe, or I suppose, if you want to get technical, Plato's idea of shapes and theories. But no, that's very fascinating, and thank you very much.
Right on. Yeah, and man, and that I think, is kind of any actionable intel. Again, just not back to like just naturally occurring shapes. That's that's a natural shape to your mind, just how it works. We think associatively. 1 minute we're on, 1 minute we're wondering if the store is gonna have our favorite gummy bear, our favorite pack of gummy bears, and then the next second, where you're thinking about how your city is doomed or something like that, right? We move around. We also move, dialectically, with a lot of You know, we bounce back, you know, we push, we have an idea, we push back on it, right? We live pushing back on things, and we observe things pushing back on us. All of this is to, you know, all of this is to be relaxed into. You know, often I think our you know, our problem is we think of, you know, almost how we think a lot of things in an oppressive society. We think about what the strongest avatar or the safest avatar we can construct for ourselves, right? And so there's this kind of pursuit of the correct voice, or the, you know, the most invincible voice, um, will, you know, will kind of deny you access to all of the textures and colors of your mind, and of your true, you know, your true preoccupations, or the kind of the groovy preoccupations that make for an interesting poem.
Awesome.
So you basically
Jacob, we're gonna move on to, and I love you to pieces, but we got to move on to the other questions because class ends at 12:20. Lita, do you want to speak your question, or should I ask it? Oh, I guess I should check the chat.
Oh yeah, I guess I was similar to Jacob. I was like wondering after a while, like, wow, I wonder if there's some part of that is improvised, or like, yeah, like coming to you off the top of your head. But I mean, I saw Dr. Estrada said that that it is like a pre-written piece that you have. But yeah, no, I got a lot out of what you just kind of answered, Jacob. And for me, it was like there was parts that would stand out a little more, that I would either find interesting or relate with. And yeah, but there's definitely a lot there too that like you also kind of have to wrap your head around. But yeah, I've never met a poet. I love poetry, but I actually don't read it enough, and let alone like listen to people like, you know, express it. And so yeah, it's like really great to kind of have that experience here in class. So thank you so much.
It's amazing. Thank you, Lita. All right. So, okay, I'm actually curious too. Abby wants to know. Oh, Abby, do you want to ask your question? I'm sorry. I get into YouTube mode. Do you want to ask your question, or shall I ask it? I may have to ask it. Some of my students have mic issues. Okay, so Abby wants to know, what exactly does a poet laureate do?
I think every poet laureate kind of makes it up as they go along. You kind of, I mean, I have my main the pirate ship that I operate off of is the library, is the San Francisco Library. So I have, you know, access to their locations and resources to, you know, to make poetry programming happen. Also, you know, people, you know, various kind of institutions kind of get wind of you, or get wind of the title, and want to collaborate. But you know, I mean, we're starting from we're starting from a remix anyway. Like, you know, so like you know, I had to look it up, right? So technically, the first poet laureate, like a poet laureate was first spawned in England, where the royal family would basically adopt a poet, and that was the poet laureate, right? Now, these U.S. ruling classes would like to probably do the same thing. I think they could do the same thing. You know, the system can adopt you in a sort of way. I think they're adopting you. So we're already kind of, you know, we're already starting from a twist of, you know, a twist of Western imagination that doesn't necessarily that doesn't actually that is a position that might not even necessarily do right by the actual mass imagination. or that's then my objective. Like, okay, well, how can I take what I'm already on and make it and make it a people's effort. What I'm really most interested in now, or hope to of course, with the pandemic, it's hard to get things done, and this has been far from I have not blitzed the position, and the position hasn't blitzed me, but I'm really interested in intergenerational writing workshop, multiple generations together in one workshop. I did briefly this kind of almost a pilot in a middle school where the parents and the kids were writing together. And it made for some really, 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 really revolutionary moments, where it just kind of like, the opportunity to just kind of humanize yourself in front of your loved one, just yielded all kind of just, just really radical vulnerability, that just kind of just made for it was just powerful sessions. But I'd like to see it, I'd like to see it expanded. Just, I think, part of this, the culture of this corporatocracy is to have us just exist in these compartments instead of and keep our psyche from really engaging reality as if we are part of a people, or part of a part of a whole, part of a side of a social contradiction. And so, workshops or efforts in poetry that are an exercise in dissolving these walls, and let's all do this together, I think are part of scaffolding the necessary consciousness that we're going to need if we're going to have a decent epoch coming up.
Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, somebody who organizes a lot. I love this idea that we have like seeing each other as human beings, love it. So Fiona also has a question. Do you want to speak it, Fiona, or you want me to speak it for you? Let's see. All right, so Fiona wants to know, is speaking poetry or performing poetry important to you rather than just having it written down?
I think that, I mean, I enjoy both. I think that they're kind of just two different meditations, really. Just two different ways of handling your mind in a given moment, really. But or to say, like, I found the best approach is just to learn the realities of both. To learn the I don't want to say like the rules, but like the science and the various codifications of just getting down on a page, and then learn the rules of science or codifications of working it out verbally.
Yeah, I remember one time I was getting not into a debate, but there's these dudes that have a YouTube channel called Pen Click. And they were like, well, the best way to hone your pen is to do poetry slams. And I was like, really? Because I like to perform, but I don't know that you can necessarily say one is better than the other. They all have their strengths, But I thought about that for a long time, and I was like, yeah, to each their own, man, Carlos has a question. Carlos Morales again, and says his poetry feels like having a conversation over a couple of beers with a good friend. I love his colloquial tone. Tell him that poetry certainly heals. Carlos also has a beautiful volume of work that he needs to republish. I already offered, but beautiful piece. Thank you, Carlos. Carlos is at work, so he can't say it. So Malika, mija, did you want to make your comment? You want me to make it for you?
I'll make it. I just want to say, when you were answering, I think it was Jacob's question, it was one of the things you were saying as far as formatting the words and getting them on and creating a process was to just make sure that, I think the takeaway that I got from it was when you said to make sure that each word justifies itself. And that's going to help me as I prepare for these wonderful assignments in this class, to start thinking of it more, each word as its own beauty, and then kind of forming. You have so many in your piece, you had so many, the phrasing, the way that the words went together, or what struck me, like the first with the third or the second with the fourth. I was just, yeah, anyway, that was my takeaway. Thank you.
You know, and I know I posted Tongo's books. Tongo is just wonderful. I recommend all of his books. I think some of them are on back order because I tried buying a book for somebody on the at Harold Washington, but I really do recommend all of them, and I do believe they're less than $10. So maybe I'll just buy you each a copy, because who cares, right? And I can, because I don't gain anything from it. Oh wait, no, I better check that. You guys maybe have to be done with my class, but the works are certainly worth it. They're small too, so you can like put them in your back pocket, and then that's what I do. Yeah, and the pocket size one from Lighthouse Press or City Lights Press is like about yay big, like a novella. It's beautiful though. Just I encourage you to listen, because I listen to these kinds of streams again from Tongo like over and over again. Read the poetry and just get something new out of it. And I love watching you perform on different YouTube channels, because you never perform it the same, because like you're saying, you're making the word, not making, but like you're meditating, and I just think that's brilliant. Just the whole concept. Does anybody else have a question? Maybe one of our guests, Lynn or Joe, or somebody who's new to the space.
Yeah, I didn't have a question, but just again, like I believe that Dr. Asif Wilson stated, some of the comments really resonated. He mentioned that you were born with hammers in your crib. That definitely, yes, it resonated for sure. Just looking at the adversity of what we have to face in this, in this country and whatnot. So, and then also I think definitely America will bury my dead body, but not include me. Was also something that really resonated with me. So just those comments, I can just relate it back to my personal and my family struggle, to be accepted and be a part. I'm of Vietnamese and African-American descent. So I kind of look at it from a different diverse perspectives, as far as from the Asian perspective as well as African-American community perspective. So I just thought that some of that just really touched my soul, because I've, obviously we've grown up here and experienced certain things, and still keeps trudging forward. So, but thank you for that.
Lynn, you want to talk about carrying imperialism? Jeez Louise, Vietnam, African-American, it's a lot, Joe, right. Yeah. You want to state your comment, Joe?
Yeah, I'm glad to. I was profoundly struck by a lot of it, but I think some of the wisdom on beware when all the people around you look like they're going to jump. There's just a lot of things I want to carry forward on that idea, but how I check in on others and how I resonate with community and connect with other people, I think is a really strong sentiment.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I do have a question, because I was thinking about this as you were performing, and partly it's just how, I'm reacting to what's happening politically. Do you find now with the conflict, I shouldn't even call it, it's World War III that's going on in Ukraine, let's just call it what it is. Do you find that you're reading your poems differently too, because it's everywhere, right? You see what I'm saying? Because of the do you find that you like the reality of guns and violence just hits a different level as you perform? It did for me on a real, like a human soul mind level. It hit me harder this time, I think.
I mean, we kind of been, writing and reading and under, at all times there's we're plagued with violence. What I think was kind of not necessarily in the not necessarily in the course of poetry readings, though I do feel it and know what you mean. But I think where I think that this is just a time of kind of such an like an accelerated shift in era. I do have this anxiety that consciousness wise we're really in danger of being the last ones to the party. And just the global geopolitical um situation it really requires the people's intervention. Before, we've kind of had this equilibrium, where we've kind of we've accepted a prison industrial complex, right? We've accepted, we accepted the caging of the kids, of the asylum seekers, we accepted, accepted kind of a climate catastrophe. And all these things were already kind of, uh, just doing numbers on us, I mean, we accepted what was obviously just an anti-humanistic approach to dealing with a pandemic. You know what I mean? Like we but I think like it's things are kind of contradictions are heightening and accelerating in a way that we might not, we just clearly don't have we just clearly don't have time. And I saw man, what's the tricontinental cat's name? VJ something.
Don't know.
This cat named VJ something. I forget. Indian brother. He was on I forget the name of the podcast, but the K gave a real good rundown. Just just talking about just what the kind of like the all of the neo-fascists that are now getting trained in Ukraine, and Ukraine as the new, where basically where the next kind of like the white fascist Al-Qaeda's and the white fascist ISIS will be fastened in Ukraine, right? Just in the same way that, the past conflicts with Russia and the Middle East put together these, what created these fighting forces. That's actually what's happening now. And also this kind of just a misinterpretation of imperialism as it's actually playing out, right? And it's not just to NATO or to not NATO, but actually because the Cheeto, what's his name? What they call him? 45. Because 45 dropped the United States out of this mid-range nuclear missile treaty. Now it is high stakes, right? Because they can't put a missile in Moscow now in 8 minutes from Ukraine, a nuclear missile. You know what I mean? Like it's just the you basically have a shift or a crisis of U.S. hegemony and imperialism to kind of like to keep control of the globe, and it's just accelerating conflict. I'll get the name
That would be great.
and shoot it to you all. But it's like, you know, one after another, we just, you know, if we don't start thinking about ourselves as historical protagonists, if we don't start thinking of ourselves as people who deserve to determine our reality, this is it just they just show we cannot leave power in these people's hands. Like, it's only going to get worse and worse, and it's only going to get harder and harder to escape.
Yeah, that's a thing. And that's beautifully said, beautifully stated. And I think that that's a really wonderful way of saying, look, it's up to us. The future is up to us. Your reality is up to you, you know? But you know, you rightly pointed out, like, this country does a really good job of isolating us outside of the pandemic, of individualizing us instead of seeing us as part of a collective. And poetry, I think, has a really important part in showing, you know, injustice and speaking out against injustice and showing the reality of people that don't make it on the news. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but I've just been like all over the map today because today is a really difficult day for me as a mother too, personally. The Chicago public school system went to mask optional, and my students know I call it COVID racist genocide, you know, because the people that are dying the most are Black and brown. And there's a lot there to be dealing with. I often say this, I feel like I'm at war at home and we're warring abroad, we're at war everywhere, right? And we all have a part to play. Everybody has a part to play. But yeah, it's a lot. But I do think that the way your poetry, like, for me, it like blooms and it blooms again and it reveals something new, and it's so beautiful. And it's empowering. I know that Carlos said it was healing. To me, it's almost said the F word. It's powerful, man. It like, I don't know. Me da, como se dice, I don't know, like courage. I'm the Spanish word is, yeah, like, oh, like, you can do it, right? You can make the world better. That's, I don't even know how to say it in Spanish. It's like Spanish English, but it's a beautiful thing, man. And I can thank you enough for being here, even though you also are going through a difficult time right now. But beautiful. Any other questions for Tongo?
Yeah, I just had one more, Professor.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Tongo, and I, this is not a facetious comment. Have you ever considered running for public office? No, I know people normally, they think that's like a joke, but I'm being serious. I find that most of the people that run for public office are, nothing against lawyers, but lawyers, business people, stuff like that. Many of the people that want to make a change never run for public positions. And I feel that somebody who has essentially, you know, unfiltered himself to a degree and has this wide range of, you know, thoughts on matters could legitimately be beneficial to the democratic system.
That's a brilliant question, Jake. May I just add that it's rich lawyers, rich lawyers.
But the key word is them. If we had a democratic system, brother, is the problem. See, it's you know, unfortunately, I mean, almost by definition, an institution is an entity whose function is impervious to the beliefs of the personnel operating within it. And I just don't think that that, you know, that there's actually that there's actually a path to self-determination, a true self-determination through the system's levers. Now, what I'm always down for, and usually engaged in organizing efforts outside of the system, or any kind of embryonic efforts of self-governance, right? Putting together for ourselves some people's assemblies. When I lived in Mississippi, organizing worker-owned cooperatives, putting together political education projects outside of institution. I just and not just from a theoretical standpoint. I've seen groovy electoral efforts get completely absorbed. I mean, just as we kind of see even like kind of activism get absorbed, right? And we can't forget, man, that the concession is actually the American ruling class innovation, right? They learned from their predecessors, like, nah, don't give these people a castle to storm. Don't sit up, don't dress yourself in absolute power. Oh, okay, you really need to vote? Go vote. Here, you can vote now. You know what I mean? You really need some a minimum wage, or we'll give it to you. The children, you don't want your children slaving. Okay, like the ruling class constantly, American ruling class constantly gives ground and lets groovy people become poet laureates, and and you can go and you can have your noble individual adventure, but ultimately I would say we can't even we can't trust it, and so I do, like I'm always like holding myself to a standard of political activity. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it from within the system. Man, really, I couldn't even be poet laureate of anything other than San Francisco. like I couldn't be poet laureate of California. California has a death penalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do I look like? What do I look like with the same seal on my whatever that puts people to death, I appreciate it, and I take it as a I take it as a compliment, like humbled, that you would say that. But I implore everyone to start thinking about, well, how can we put together political, I don't know what's the plural of apparatus. Is it apparati?
Apparatus.
Yeah, apparatus, yeah. Participating outside the system, no, it's just as important, the people that organize people together, because the thing that people in power are afraid of the most across the board, not just the United States, but across the board, are organized people. All governments rule at the consent of people. And as long as people are content, the government can do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment people become upset, and normally it takes a lot, but the moment people become upset, that's when things get scary. That's when heads start getting chopped off.
That's right.
Or we can just go off grid. We don't have to sit here and say, okay, I'm going to be a part of this corrupt ass government. I personally would not suggest to anyone they run for politics necessary. I say go off grid, create your own community of like-minded individuals. I mean, seriously, that's my personal goal at the moment.
Cool. But you know, it's hard. It's hard.
Think about wasting 20 years in a corrupt government we can't do that much about. I mean, what about personal happiness also?
Yeah. But you know, Malika, I feel you because I thought about that. But like Tongo said, there's nowhere to run, you know, and we had this conversation recently. I mean, this is Chicago. Chicago has six socialist alderpersons, which was a huge victory. But we still have a mayor that bows to a ruling class.
You buy land and you go off grid. I mean, you don't have to run out of your country. You have to think within your country outside of the bounds of the government.
There's only a few places on all of planet Earth that are not claimed by a government. Very few places.
And even then, I think it'd be almost impossible to survive. I thought about Alaska sometimes, you know. But no, look, what I was gonna say is that so even here where you have six socialists, very well-meaning, I work with them, I organize with them, the mayor still calls the shots and still makes decisions. And I'm telling you, I've been protesting. I've been in front of City Hall. You name it. I've been on every major. And I'm not just saying I obviously there's a bunch of other organizers trying to tell the city, look, we deserve real health care. Tell the governor we deserve real health care. Where are the $2 billion that were supposed to be spent on CPS kids? Who knows? You know, but that's what I'm saying is like, I think the impulse is to have a political power that fights for us, right? But the system won't allow it. But I think yeah, it's a really great question, Jacob. I was even saying, I mean, things are getting so messed up in Chicago. I was thinking of running, you know, but I'm pulled by my organizing. I need to be on the streets. I need to, you know, be with other parents who are fighting the same fight. And so it's a difficult thing, but
as long as you're doing something politically, I can understand the fear and people being discouraged by, you know, it's going out and they wanting to run away. But the thing is, that is exactly what people who gain the most want to happen, but they don't want to happen.
We need to be planting gardens. We need to be teaching our people how to grow their own food again and stop having pesticides put on our food. Actually, we need to organize them that way.
I mean, that's a valid point. And you know what? There's actually a pretty healthy movement here of permafarming. Have you guys been to the plant? You dig this. The plant is this building that somebody turned into communal gardening, and the food you can take it and people just work it. You know, why can't we have urban gardens? And there's so much that could be done. But again, you got to deal with this concept of the rulers and private property, because the moment that people try to have their little communities, think about these homeless, you know, areas. What do the police do? They tear them down, you know, and that's not, I mean, it's ridiculous. It happened recently in Humboldt Park. It's 12:19. Tongo, I want to leave it on a positive note. I just want to thank you again. You got to let me pay this time though, brother. Seriously, you're so humble. You didn't let me pay him, but the best thing you can do is read Tongo's poetry and give him favorable reviews if you can. And I don't see about buying you those books. The only thing is I'm up for post-tenure review and I might get in trouble, but maybe once post-tenure is over, we happily buy your books. So listen, thank you, Tongo. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Lynn, for that beautiful introduction, the best introduction ever. And thank you, students. This is a really lit conversation. Let's keep it going on Wednesday. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
A pleasure, sir.
Much love and appreciation.
Malika's coming back. Listen, Tongo, hang in there, brother. I'll be praying for you. I don't know what you're going through, but you know, I know these pandemic times, being what they are, everything hits you harder, man. Everything. Yeah, you're getting a lot of thank you. Thanks, everyone. Lourdes says thank you. You remember what I said earlier? Ooh, this was such a respite, man. Thank you, Tongo. Thank you, everybody. See you. Much love.
Thank you.